practice.
Yeah, you see that? You see that?
Allen Iverson.
Oh yeah.
We're talking about practice.
Practice. Weird. All right. Oh, so we got that going. Shut this down. Little Yale highlights. All right, guys. So, Coach AJ here with Will Weitzel. I started coaching Will, back in like 2012-ish maybe, and he was always a beast. It's funny seeing his highlights because he's very dedicated. Was a three-sport athlete? You played football too?
Yeah, I was captain of basketball and lacrosse, and I played football, basketball, and lacrosse in high school.
Awesome, at Roxbury Latin. And so I'm pumped to have him here because he's got a great story. He can answer questions for you. I want to go through some highlights so you can kind of get what Will's at. Like, I always knew Will as this beast on defense, relentless on ground balls, and he had a knack for knocking people down with legal body checks. And but when you look at his highlights, you would have thought he might have played attack. The way he just goes up and down the field scoring. So you guys can see this right here, right?
Yep.
Right. We'll see how loud the music is. I'm not that hip these days, but you guys are a lot cooler than me.
Huddle music is terrible, AJ.
Oh, is this terrible? Terrible music?
All the huddle music is horrible.
Oh, well then I'll just keep it at mute. But this is Will right here, number 8. You can just see like that log there is awesome. So that would be a little hesitation move. That was a great hesitation move. Look off. Let's see Will playing some D. This is how I remember him. A little cross check. So we were talking and joking around a little bit. Sometimes it's tough to find a defensive highlight when you play really well. Sometimes you seem to be invisible. But this highlights some good ones where he gets to chop people up. So we'll kind of just watch. I'll get this, set the tone a little. What team is this, Will?
This was St. Mark's, and that kid number 7 actually, I think he might be the all-time point scorer in the ISL. He didn't have a ton of talent around him, but I remember him averaging like 8 or 9 points a game. It was ridiculous.
Nice. Who's this? Is this Govs?
No, this was Milton. That is a 3D guy. I'm blanking on his name, but he's pretty quick, pretty shifty guy. This is BB&M. They were pretty bad, if we're being honest. They were not a really good team.
We're all about honesty here.
Yeah, I mean,
Hockey.
I met AJ, I think in 2012 or so, and he the reason I remember AJ most is he'd come off, I think it was one of your ACL surgeries, and he was talking to our team before a game. It was like the 4th or 5th game of one of those summer tournaments, and we're all kind of dead. And he looks at us and basically looks us in the eyes and goes, "Guys, listen to me here." And he kind of looks at us like the little crazy AJ eyes, which I'm assuming you've all seen. And he basically said, if I could play this game for any amount of time, be it a quarter, be it a half, be it a whole game, I would take a dull knife, not just a knife, but a dull knife, and cut my pinky off to do it. And ever since then, I've kind of remembered AJ with that little speech. It's always stuck in the back of my head. And he's always been a little crazy, but at the same time, you've got to respect the craziness of certain people because he always brings great energy.
Yeah, that's a good statement. What do you think, Dan? My brother? Is he on? Is he muted?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. So, yeah, but if I was going to cut my pinky off, it'd probably be my pinky on my left hand because I am a true righty. And I'm like a Canadian trapped in an American's body. But this is some of, you kind of like are ridiculous on some of these highlights, Will. This might not be – you got a couple different highlights in high school. So I'm going to I kind of want to skip out of them, though. Because what I really want to do is show – I saw that. And this is like – so you saw him kind of doing that in high school. Let's just kind of quick little look. Let's see if this video opens up. Why isn't it? Where is it? Pen. So you get to Yale. We got AJ Sherwood wearing a Syracuse shirt. You get to Yale, what, 2017?
Yeah, my first year was technically, the fall of 2016, but first, game 2017, yeah.
Oh, speaking of 2016, in June or May 2016, right? You got you were the MVP of the Boston Lax All-American game. Am I correct?
Yep, I was MVP of that game. I won ISL Player of the Year, and I was an All-American for the ISL, and I was a national third-team All-American, I think, or something like that.
Nice. That's awesome. So when I bring that up, because all you defensemen out there, you know, it's not impossible. A lot of times you don't get credit. I thought it was pretty cool because a lot of times they always give that to an attackman. And if you don't know what that Boston Lax All-American game is, it's like the one game where all the public school and private school kids come together. It's pretty cool. So you got Governor's kids, you got kids from RL, you got kids from Milton Academy, wherever, Rivers, and then you get kids from LS, Duxbury, hopefully Framingham in the future, Newton. It's basically the best of the best of Massachusetts, and they all go at it. And Will was a defenseman and got the MVP, which was pretty sweet. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, that's not what I'm trying to – I literally clicked something else. Let's see. I didn't want to start with that.
I prefer not to watch the, us losing to Virginia in the national championship to start, but whatever you want, AJ.
Oh, what are you talking about? This is good stuff.
No, I'm kidding. I actually probably one of my better games this season, but it still sucks to lose.
So that's weird. I don't know what the heck is going on right now. Play it. These are the Yale team highlights. The other video is not. I really want to show you corner pen. So this is. You guys see this?
Yeah.
This is going to be the highlights of the national championship game that Will lost in, but it's okay. He played in it. They won a title the year before. It's kind of cool. Look at that. It's not opening up the pen goal. It's so messed up.
What a cool thing I ever did in college.
That opponents can't handle in the first 10 minutes of a game.
All right. It's,
Very few teams of a game.
here it is. This is it right here. Who's this, Moore?
I think so.
That's Will, number 10.
Ball carriers, guys like Moore, Kraus, and Aitken. Very few teams can match up man for man.
Well, cross jack, stick on.
Kraus gets free.
So you did get you a little topside there, Will.
Yeah, I probably should have stayed in my V-hold as opposed to slapping back down, but I
But you-
learned.
Very few
Yeah,
teams
you jam them really well.
man for man. Kraus against Weitzel.
Yeah, you got your stick on them right there for sure. And Kraus is freshman ACC rookie of the year for ACC.
I think he's an All-American this year as a junior, too.
And if you're gonna get beat topside, you might as well keep. Oh, okay. Gets it off. Let's see the next one.
Kraus. Teams have two. Aiken with a nice split dodge. First team All-American, Doc Sagan. Great high school football player as well. This kid does not stop.
Okay, this isn't you, but it was a second.
Get off. As Aiken
This next one is you.
gets a shot off, but sends it six.
Here we go. Number 10.
Weitzel. Always been winning his matchup. Moore, that time. The matchup won by Weitzel. Turnover. Aiden Harper, Jack Starr, a season ago. Adam DeMille from Maryland 2 years ago.
So that right there. You guys are going under picks?
Yeah, we kind of started making an adjustment after they scored a few goals off of switches from poles to short sticks, especially with Moore and Kraus. So we're trying to get under, and this is one of those places where you can kind of stay or get under depending on kind of what the short stick tells me. But a lot of space. He's a righty, so I know I'm going to catch him. He's not going to take me topside, so I got under the pick.
Yeah, I saw that because I scored the first goal with the on a switch by a midi that didn't really switch that well.
Yeah.
And it seemed like to me that I mean, they just constantly try to pick from behind. They're not really doing true two-man games. They're trying to just switch the matchups and get confusion. It's just interesting. Because, like, they didn't score on the first goal, and the commentator makes a comment about that, and it is interesting that they're kind of acting like Moore's got Weitzel. But it's really, I watched it after you said it. I'm like, actually, he didn't score on you. He scored on the shorty on the switch, and you strip him the next series right here. All right, so it's gonna go. Here we go. I think this is it.
That's
No, Sorry.
Yale's best defender.
This is fake.
The best of the-
We wanted to show this to the guys. Actually, this is interesting. So Fake was what, a 4-year All-American?
I believe so. He's incredible.
So that's one of Will's teammates. And right here, so you're sliding to his face. I wanted to ask you this. Why? Why did 28 slide to his face? Is this
So Mooney, 28, did not mean to.
okay?
If you can see, there should be the guy. So there's 3, 42, and there's a guy high. In theory, Mooney's more what we call a red show, which is like an adjacent show, ideally. So he should be scraping back, but with their motion of the cut, the way 42 kind of cuts in,
Yeah.
Mooney basically kind of goes rogue here, trying to pass it off, and we don't really want to slide to this.
Am I
Unless
okay?
he's rolling
Right.
underneath.
Because it looks like he's cutting off Fake, and I'm like, well, I just slide to his face there. Fake has him, and then he just gives him this, but he doesn't. I mean, watch this, guys. How 47 or there's a recovery. He's right. Oh yeah, he's open.
Yeah, well, Hines, 47, was trying to talk through the recovery and kind of took his hand off his stick, trying to point it out,
Yeah, it's that bad.
which, can be great, cannot be great, depending on the situation. But in this case, Starr makes a great save. Beat.
Oh yeah, and then here we go, Will. Well, nope, next one.
4. Tornadoes against Weitzel.
Oh, there's the famous lift.
Shot clock.
So this is one that's ridiculous because it looks like you have awesome defense. This is something for the guys to see. Like it you can have such a sliver. I mean, he is even covered on the crease. Look at the stick right there. I mean, he is and he isn't. He's just got the stick there, but you get the poke on him too. I mean, that's how close, like how they can thread the needle. They can play really good D and still give up a feed like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it becomes a game of inches in college, and even an inch. I mean, Matt Gaudette, 44 on our team, does this kind of stuff to us all the time, which annoys me, but still, it's incredible to have him as a teammate.
Sure, absolutely.
He could be a member of the Night's Watch. Or Spark likes to say the Undertaker. He established that.
Let's see a little clearing action, Will.
Virginia making Yale work on these face-offs, and now Yale needs to go to work on the clear.
Nice.
Beautiful. That's a textbook handle. Spinning through the defense. Drop box. Bumpering downfield. Box through the defense. Laviano, former hockey player, tried a slap shot there, but Starr has it. Now the ride by Virginia.
Nice little pick there, Will.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to do there. Get awkward. Try to set a pick, get some space.
So let's see. We're still not loading any other videos. That's all right.
Virginia on a 4-0 run.
There you go, Weitzel.
Moore had the first 2 goals. It's been the big guns for UVA. Moore, Krause.
I like that. I like your one-handed. He doesn't want it.
That's a switch on so many picks.
It's a long one-on-one.
Sometimes you got to get them.
Then you're off to the races.
Yeah, that didn't go well for me. They cut it, but I actually kind of got bodied and lost the ball.
See that again, though, guys. That's a sick one-on-one right there. I don't even know. Oh, it's even further than this. Okay, here it is.
Moore against Weitzel. Virginia on a 4-0.
You like to do that one-handed poke a lot.
Yeah, our coach, we lost our defensive coordinator this year, and our new one did not love my one-handed poke. But I find personally, as long as I keep my feet moving,
Yeah.
it A, makes the attack have to decide earlier, and B, as long as you get your second hand to your stick again, you really, since they're dictating and going one way, you can get physical with them more quickly versus kind of playing with them with 2 hands in your stick because, you have less of a cushion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this reminds me of the kid I played with at Denver, Corey Van, who was, I think, the first defensive All-American at Denver. He graduated class of 04. Old guy like me. But I love this posture right here. You can really get into him without giving up your cushion, which is what it's all about, right?
Yep, and if he decided to, kind of attack me a little bit more, I can get hands on earlier. It also allows me to, especially if I'm running behind somebody, you'll see me almost like – it's not really a poke. It's almost like – we call it a jiggle, Like my hand's kind of almost at my shoulder height, and my stick is at like kind of a downward angle, trying to find his gloves, just to try to get something on to distract him.
Okay, because right here you throw like a one, you slap your one hand for the change of direction. It's like you knew he was going to change.
Yeah, well, as he sees my stick throw, if I commit to it too much, I'll probably overstep by 1 or 2 here. But he's not coming top side as he sees me throw this check, and I know that with one hand that I can kind of reset quickly.
You just know he's going back to his right because it's more.
Well, you can see it as I take my hand to throw this check. He drops his foot.
Yep, right there.
Yep, right there. Which means that the instant I see that, I'm going to take a little off my check so that I don't get myself too far in position.
I get you.
B, it allows me to still get something on him just to say, hey, I'm still here, even though I'm not there for another beat or 2.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. Yeah, it's a lot of separation, and you got to close the gap again, and then right there at their stick. I like that. And you're going – and a lot of guys, I think, I guess in high school, I feel like people still kind of poke at the head of the stick, and I love how you're, like, right in here.
You want to aim – I aim for – if I can't get the bottom glove, which is ideal, I kind of just aim for the ribs to miss cleanly because it's going to do something, probably drive them off balance. The only thing bad about that is in the summer heat, your head bends and you get kind of pissed off as you watch your head warp around somebody's shoulder or ribs.
Yeah, totally. Doesn't inflict as much pain.
No.
Let's see here. He does a good job of he's trying to get away from you. And let's see. This is a long dodge. Let's see how it works. All right. Second part of the dodge. Little pick, go under. So this is where you change it up, right? Because you're no longer switching because that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. The only issue with it, you see it here, is as you go underneath the pick, I got to probably do a better job of getting back to hands, getting reconnected, because with their off-ball movement, he does have time to feed, and he's 5 yards below GLE, so I can probably get a little more physical.
Yeah, I mean, 12 should have been tighter on his man on that cut, but yes, I hear what you're saying. You know what I mean? Like, he should have anticipated that feed, but that's great D. And then what do we cut it right here? This is a great GB. What are you saying? What happens after this?
Yeah, he kind of hits me. I kind of slide down to one knee. Stick falls into one hand. The ball kind of dribbles out.
Well, that didn't happen because we don't see it on this film here. So we're just going to assume you cleared it and it was all well.
I wish I did.
That's awesome.
Angie, I don't know if what you want me to kind of start to mention these guys, or you want to keep breaking down film, or do you want to?
Oh, no, that was actually perfect. That's the last one of you right there. So let's that's pretty sweet. I thought I had your pen goal right here. It's just not loading. It's unfortunate. But, yeah, I kind of wanted to, we talked a little bit about that. Let's kind of talk about we saw your high school. Like, I want to start you off with a question and have other guys ask questions. Like, what was the biggest difference? What do you think moving from, like, high school to college? I don't know for, like, I'll just leave it out there, whether it's practice, whether it's games. Like, what's the biggest difference that you see in the game of lacrosse?
I think there's a bunch of different things you could definitely point to. From a more personal standpoint, I think the thing that changed most for me was my nutrition, which is kind of weird to talk about. My senior spring, we do like a project for a year, not a year, for a month. And I did sports nutrition with a woman named Julie Nicoletti, and she was really helpful. But like in college, you kind of realize what your macros should be, what your carbs should be, and all of that, which are probably foreign kids to high school students. Because I mean, I ate whatever the hell I wanted. I would have 13 tacos at lunch. I'd have 5 hamburgers, or I'd have nothing in the day and try to figure it out, and I'd be fine because we're high school, we're 18 years old, just kind of do whatever we want. But come college, like you kind of got to realize that everything you put into your body matters. And at Yale in particular, they want defensemen to be at least 200, 205 pounds. And I was about 190, 185 coming out of high school. So I had to put on 15 or 20 pounds by the time that I got to campus my freshman fall. And fortunately, I was one of the more athletic guys. So there wasn't a crazy jump in terms of like you guys have probably seen the highest tier of athlete in high school at some point or other. But the kind of the average person is significantly better in terms of the whole college. And then off ball is a crazy adjustment, and with your conditioning, because in high school, like I remember going back and watching some of my high school games, and I'd stand up straight off ball. I really wouldn't care. I know he would back cut me. It really wouldn't matter. But in college, with how you run a slide packages, you literally have 6 guys involved in your defense, including your goalie, which is kind of crazy to think about because you have your slide guy, but then your 2 slides important, your 3 slides important. And for us, we define our recoveries, either the ball going ahead, so like an alley dodge, ball goes to X, or going, we call it getting jammed back up top. So guy goes down the alley, plants his foot in the bound, and rolls back and throws it back up top. Like we have different recovery packages for where the ball goes. And it's kind of crazy to think about and talk about in terms of how it happens because it's so fast. But off ball becomes way more stressful and a little bit more difficult, especially when you first start. Like I honestly, chicken with my head cut off, didn't know what I was doing, just trying to, get my head above water and see what I could do to like help the team. Fortunately, it all worked out. But at the same time, like the off-ball stuff from a defensive standpoint is just a big jump.
So nutrition and off-ball, I mean, it's funny we were joking about that because off-ball, I sum it up as when I was in high school, I was more stressed out to be on-ball, even though you get not stressed out, but like the pressure is on when you're on ball. Whether you're a great player, whether you're developing, whether when you're in the zone or not in the zone, having an off game or a great game, on ball is your stress point. You're a defenseman. But then you get to college and it's like I'm more comfortable on ball than off ball because of all the chaos that's going around me. And it's true. It's very stressful when 5 guys are moving at once. It's really hard to see who's slide man, who's isn't. And every smart team is going to move the slide man to try to see if you stay with your matchup or stay with your responsibility. And that's a question right there. Like, I know how like Notre Dame is really interested in like they'll just switch if someone's trying to exchange off the crease. They'll keep the slide man. Like at Yale, what's your responsibility? If you're on the crease, you're going to slide and I'm moving. Are you going to pass me off?
So we don't change our roles unless it does not compromise our defense. So an example of this in terms of like an alley dodge, everybody's sitting on the motion. You probably have a new guy. Keep the roll. Make sure we have a go. However, a dodge over the top, which, if you hit a 15-yard runner consistently, maybe we'll consider going to. That's a really, really difficult shot. So if there's a kind of not a 4-man rotation, kind of guy cuts the middle, go to the wing goes to the crease pops out. We'll probably stay with that kind of motion just because it's not compromise our defense and there's really no need to go there. So it kind of depends on – there's a bunch of different rules. We're traditionally more of a sit team than a stay team, but we do a little bit of both depending on who we have.
So that right there I think is huge because I think we got a bunch of high school guys that realize just getting the second slide is one thing. You talked about a rotation after the slide goes, meaning which is great because if one guy goes, we all got to go.
Yep.
We all got to – you know what I mean? We got to cover up all our loose ends and then we can spider back out to our men as soon as things settle. And I think that's a big problem with, that's why in high school, I think, if you can, in college, it's like they can string those passes together to get it through to the backside to score, that's why off ball is so hard. But it doesn't matter if you cover up the slide man. The second slide is there. The third slide needs to be there too.
Yeah, Coach Shea really believes, like, to a fundamental core that after you beat your guy, it becomes a game of basically 3-on-2 or 4-on-3. So we do a bunch of drills like that because as a defense, he's got a few rules that he likes the offense to keep, and our job is basically to make them break them. Either don't draw a slide, don't get beat, the ball beats you the cage. There's a whole bunch of that we've got. But essentially, like, you just learn to basically cover 2 guys as well as you can, and it's always harder in practice than it is in the game for us because when are we going to be basically down a guy the entire possession? Because even if it goes for 30 seconds, we play good defense. They score a goal, they score a goal. But at the same time, you kind of learn to just kind of slow play versus fully rotate it, kind of jump passes, let them catch it, and kind of let them figure it out. And you slowly play mind games with the offense as you get more and more advanced because they start to overthink things like, is he going to come and jump my hands real quickly? Do I have to move the ball? Or is he going to be slow to play to me? And then you can kind of creep game round and then get your stick on his gloves and he can't do anything anymore.
Yeah. So how much sticking on the gloves, is that like that's what we used to say at 3D all the time, glue as as much as possible. Is that at Yale? Is that a big part of your
so we call it friction traditionally, kind of just make the teams uncomfortable. And you and I were talking about this beforehand. But we did a pretty good job against Penn State this year. And they're pretty talented, pretty slick team. But we said it all week. The enemy of slick is friction. Just because of the fact that if you're in your gloves, I don't care how good your stick is. Like, there's only so much you can do, especially if we're chopping away. And there's balance. If they're out in like a ridiculous amount of space, you can get a little something, like leave like a one-handed poke there, but there's really no point, going to cross-check them, going to press them super hard because they'll just run by you. So there definitely is a balance. And obviously, as you get closer and closer to the cage, it becomes less about putting your stick on their gloves and more so putting a body on a body. And kind of just get them out of there. And we use a slide, and you were talking about this earlier. Sometimes we slide what you might call a little early, even if our guys not beat, just to do what we call reset the edge, just to keep the spacing of the defense and not get too compressed. Because as you get more and more compressed, sometimes it helps the offense.
What does that mean? You do a slide? Is it you know the guy's not beat, but you're going to slide to?
So let's say the guy starts his dodge at about 15. It's a tight dodge. We'll probably go to that because that means that the instant he gets beat, he's beat at 12 yards. And 12 yards is a pretty decent shot for just about anybody. And so even if he doesn't get beat, doesn't play bad defense, like if we can reset that edge to 15, 16, 17 yards again, that allows us to kind of reset our defensive structure and reset everything else while also throwing their offense out of whack. Versus if they get to 12 yards and the guy gets beat then, either he's coming to 10 with the inside or he's going to step in from 12 and let it rip. And that's a pretty good shot in college.
Yeah. That's cool. It's you said a couple things too, and I want to open it up for some guys. I'm looking at Joey Ferrante, his name popped up too, and it made me think you have a weird situation in your college career where you get to play against TD on your way to the championship against Duke, right? Because he was the face-off guy at Albany.
Yep.
And then you get to play with TD. Does everybody here know who TD is? Anybody not know who TD is?
He's a Fogo.
He's
filthy.
That's right. He's filthy. He's filthy. So it's kind of cool. Why don't you, like, if you could, like, playing against TD, it's got to be stressful. But you guys kind of, like we taught, you neutralized him. But then he was on your team, and he was like just stupid good. I mean, I'm talking like 90% of the face-off wins. It was stupid. So, any thoughts on?
So for years at Yale until probably my freshman year, it was almost face-off by committee, and the wings were super involved. So we were really detailed on our wing play in terms of, we called it, once again, friction, boxing out, basically being hip-to-hip until about 6-7 yards, and then kind of literally boxing the guy out. The best example, I think, is probably Penn State in the quarterfinals this past year. We did a really good job on the wings, keeping them off. So that way we
keeping him off TD, right? So he can do his thing.
But so until then, like, it was kind of like the wings were were a big part in going 50-55% from the X. But once TD got there, we kind of took those principles, but just said keep them off the TD. And so I do this all the time. Refs never call it, but if I have a pole on me and he basically sticks his shaft kind of like in my midsection, I literally take my elbow and pin his stick to my gut just so that he cannot wiggle away no matter what he does. And he's fast enough. You give him a foot, he's off, which is really nice. But playing him, definitely a little stressful. He scored a goal with me kind of right behind him in that Albany game, which really annoyed me.
In the Final Four, in the semifinals?
Yeah, he gave me shit for it when I saw him on campus the following fall. But I don't really. He's the best face-off guy, obviously, I think, ever.
I think you could argue that.
I think of him more as TD at this point, just because he's been my boy for 2 years. And
so on the wing play, because I was talking about this with Gio. He's one of our captains. He's Matt Giovine, but we call him Gio. He's a D-Midi, and we were talking about wing play, and it's pretty cool because a lot of guys don't get talk about wing play. When you're on the line, are you leaning on the guy? Or, I mean, some guys leapfrog each other. Any thoughts on wing play?
So I think it depends on who you are. Cornell really loves the stand 5 yards behind the line and run back and forth, and I hate that. It really pisses me off. I'm much more of a fan. So we have like kind of wing positions. The short sticks, about normally at the midline. The pole is about 5 yards below the draw side, give or take. And I try to go hip to hip, but I basically lean on my stick like a sprinter stance.
Yeah.
So if you kick my stick out from under me, I'd probably fall on my face.
Good idea.
And then the instant I get off that line, I'm basically trying to go find whoever's on my wing and put a body on them. Don't have to blow them up or anything like that. Just get friction, drive them off the line, and then talk to the face-off guy. We call them 6 and 12 relative to their helmets and their clock. So 12 would be straight ahead, 6 would be backwards. And so if I'm saying 6, 6, 6, that means that he's got an exit behind him. From say 12, he's got an exit in front of him.
You're talking to TD and telling him where his exit is.
Yes.
Interesting. Because I saw at UMass, you were getting a step on your guy each time, and you were basically boxing him out. Like you're getting in front of him and slowing down on purpose, I think.
Yeah, well, they'll obviously move because they don't want to be boxed out. So if they start shifting forward or backwards, obviously I have to adjust and box out that way, but that gives TD a new opening to exit.
Yeah. And then you got to dictate, and you're communicating like a goalie would to the defense.
Yeah, well, if you ever see TD's head pop up, he's won the face-off, just box your guy out. He's going to get out.
I've heard that. As soon as he pops his head up, he's just trying to
get his head up. You're basically done your job as long as you keep a body on him. But until then, you kind of just got to dictate to TD because sometimes if he's not super confident with it or only half won the ball, he'll pop it out that way and has to trust you that like that's going to be open. So he's incredible off the ground.
I've heard that about him. As soon as his head's up, he's just figuring out where he's putting it.
Pretty much.
That's pretty cool. Darren, anybody? Any questions?
Will, who do you think your hardest matchup was in college?
College, to be selfish and say practice player has to be Ben Reeves. He is
in practice.
Yeah, incredible. That kid is super fast, and the way his stick was strong. If he got a step on you up like the lefty hash from X, he basically was pinging the corner either top right or top left. And I still have no idea how he does it to this day. Like, it's almost like he wasn't trying. And then all of a sudden, Ben was like, oh, I want to score a goal. And he goes score a goal. Besides him, Matt Rambo and Dylan Malloy were really, really good and also big bodies. And I played them when I was younger, so nearly as strong. They had really good sticks, and they were definitely tough. I wasn't covering them all game by any means, but they were really, really tough guys.
So you said something about Rambo because we got AJ, not to pick on Sherwood, but he's wearing he's wearing a Maryland shirt, isn't he? Where's he at? Oh, he left. So I think some people got kicked off. I got a text. Some people got kicked off, and then they couldn't get back in because I didn't see them in the waiting room. But Rambo, you covered him as a freshman.
Yeah, for a little bit.
And that was their championship year.
That was their championship year, yeah.
And you guys lost to them in the quarterfinals or the first round?
We lost them in the regular season 12-11, and then we lost to Syracuse by 1 in the first round that year.
That's right. So you lost to the champion of the – so that's interesting. So you lose to the champion by 1, and you lose to Syracuse by 1 in the first round. Correct?
Yeah, that Syracuse bus ride was – a real turning point for our program, in all honesty, because we came back. The game was at 7 o'clock at night. We finished probably at 11, not even 11, probably with 10, 9 o'clock, 10. But we didn't get back to New Haven until 3 or 4 in the morning. And we all sat in that bus wide awake for that entire ride, basically thinking about how much this sucks and how this would never happen to us again. And obviously, the year after that, we went on to win. And the year after that, we lost in the championship game. But that feeling of losing and having that 5-hour, 6-hour drive and getting back to basically where we live at 3, 4 in the morning and having nothing to play for the next day was maddening.
So you think that's the start of your 2018 run?
Yes, absolutely.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. And then TD transferred, right?
Yep, TD transferred, which
after.
helps.
Yeah. No, but you guys won a championship without TD.
Correct. Yes, without TD, and then we got TD.
That's awesome. That's so cool to hear that. That's so true. Yeah, man. It can sometimes you can take a negative and a loss like that and flip it around. So, yeah. Anybody have any questions? I see Tamaris is back on.
Yeah. Hey, Will. For the boys here in high school, what was your recruitment like? You started recruitment right freshman, sophomore year, 8th grade. Was it tournament? Was it high school play? What was it like?
So I picked up lacrosse in 7th grade. I was not all that good lacrosse.
Tough question. Broke up.
Yeah, he broke up. I think he's off. It's happening. Maybe I'll join back on.
Shit, my bad.
No, he's still there.
I guess.
He's still there. He just popped off and he popped back on. There he is.
He's pretending he's frozen.
Yeah, he's pretending he's avoiding it. Let's see if he pops back on.
Hey, Will?
Will, you there?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I just got seventh grade. That's where we left off.
All
Seventh
right,
grade.
so seventh grade. In seventh grade, picked up lacrosse stick for the first time. Never played before. A bunch of my buddies told me to play. In eighth grade, somehow the varsity lacrosse coach, who was also my English teacher, asked me to play for them. Honestly, did not think I was even good enough. Played a little bit. Was at the second LSM. Fine, nothing great. And then my freshman year, I started getting recruited a little bit to Michigan and a few other places, and then I kind of killed it my freshman summer and got offered by Ohio State, Penn State, Hopkins, UNC, Michigan, and Virginia. But I really wanted to go either Ivies or Duke. And so my sophomore fall, I visited Duke in September. And a week later, I visited Yale. Duke offered me, said, call me if you want to come. And then Yale, I was like, yeah, there's no way the Ivies offered. They're not this early. Like, there's no real chance because that's what it was at the time. And it turned out Coach Shea pulled me aside after one of their camps. He was like, hey, what are your grades like? Well, have you taken an SAT yet? Have you got anything from me like that? And I did okay because our school makes us take a few things early. And then he said, hey, if you want to come, talk to your guys in council, get your stuff in order and let me know. Took a few days. I kind of made a chart of pros and cons of everything. My dad also played football at Yale, which was part of my decision a little bit. And I decided that Wednesday that I wanted to go to Yale, and that was kind of all she wrote after that.
And it was so you started around freshman year, you said in high school. Was it playing club in those tournaments, or was it just playing strictly through ISL? Or
it was so for me, my recruiting was definitely more so summer tournaments.
Yeah.
Okay.
3D connections helped me a ton. I know Dave Jenkins, Mark Goodrich, or a bunch of guys who advocated for me and were super helpful in that regard. I'm assuming they did something at some point. But it was definitely more so the club scene than high school. High school help. Like if you got a high school highlight tape and you can send that out, that's great. But in terms of where the coaches go all the time, it's much more so in the summer because obviously they have a season to focus on during the spring.
Yeah, and things have changed a bit too with the new recruiting rules and if a high school coach is like, it all depends on where you're at. But Will, you totally rode that wave, the early recruitment wave.
Absolutely.
You got exposed to great camps. And it was awesome. I was part of that. It was a nice way to that freshman year really set it. But it was a good example of a basketball player who wasn't so confident in his lacrosse skills, just tearing it up just by being competitive, and that basketball skills really come out. And then the cool thing about lacrosse is you're actually allowed to put people on their back and with those basketball skills. So, it was awesome. It's great.
Yeah, I got into a bunch of good camps, Maverick and Nike. What is it? Nike Blue Chip, was it, AJ?
Yeah. Is that down Florida?
Those two camps definitely were pretty big for me in terms of kind of showing out against the kids they called top talent at the time.
Yeah.
And then what also helped me was we did the U15 World Championship as 3D. And we happened to win that whole thing. And I was one of the players of the tournament or whatever, along with a goalie, a face-off guy, and a captain. So those accolades definitely helped out in terms of my recruiting.
So with goalies played, can I ask you a question? And I'll shut up. All of these guys ask questions. Your communication with goalies and defensemen, maybe after a goal or whatever it might be, or even just in play. It's such an important thing. Communication with the goalie, the relationship you have with your goalie as a defenseman, and whether it's playing defense or clearing or whatever. After a goal to make sure you reset your minds. Any thoughts on that type of process, moving from high school to college?
I've had a few different goalies throughout my time. We had a kid in my class named Brody. We had a kid a year younger named Jack Starr. We had a kid named Phil Hufford my freshman year. And then we had a kid in Point Krantz who was a year above me but played a little bit. And honestly, for the goalie, it was kind of each their own. Brody's more of a louder, more vocal person. He likes to have an opinion on the defense and what we should have done and likes to tell us what kind of shots that he enjoys seeing. Mm-hmm. Starr was a little more quiet. He would give us our feet in terms of GLE, like left foot, trying to make sure we get our line. But he was more quiet. We kind of talked about what we thought went wrong, how we could give him better shots, but he didn't have a ton of output. Phil, when I was a freshman, was a little more vocal when we really messed up, but he kind of went in and out depending on how he felt. Also, being a freshman, I was more so listening than talking. And then Hoyt was very, very vocal throughout the entire possession, would always tell you where the ball is, would borderline yell out slides for us. So it really depends on what you're comfortable with as a goalie and what you're comfortable with as a defense. The more vocal leaders you have as a defense, traditionally the better, especially the guys that are actually on the field in terms of not the goalie. But at the same time, the goalies want certain shots and feels better seeing shots from the alley in the middle of the field than actually scoop up, spray that, and let the defense know. But if you really are just if you're a goalie who says, you know what, I'll take whatever the defense is willing to give me as long as it's not absolutely terrible, then the defense kind of dictates more of that. It really depends. It kind of depends. But
which one did you enjoy playing for most? I don't want to put you on the spot. Don't worry, we won't tell you.
I thought it was easiest to play with Hoyt and Brody just because of their more vocal tendencies. But at the same time, Starr bailed us out a few times, so I never complain about a goalie who bails me out.
So, yeah, because Starr is ridiculous. You can't deny that. He was insane. But, like, as a defenseman, you liked the goalie yelling at you more? Is that what you're saying? It was helpful for you to kind of get more?
I think it depends. I think it really depends on who else you have on your team. If you were really vocal defensively, or like I in high school was much more of a vocal guy, and we had Devin Varney, who he was a great goalie, but he didn't love talking until his older years. So it was kind of fine. So I would have a conversation with him afterwards and be like, hey, do you like that shot? Like, do you think you should have had that one? It's like stuff like that, as opposed to being in the whole circle and then kind of conveying how he felt depending on, how everything went. So it really depends on the goalie and the relationship you want to have with him. Because as we all know, goalies are a little crazy. They're all a little nuts. They're all a little crazy, and they all need their own little things. So kind of just meeting them on their own level and letting them have whatever command of the defense they feel they need because they're the last line of defense is traditionally fine with how it goes.
That's awesome. That's cool. You also took faceoffs. I don't think a lot of people know about that. You took faceoffs against Bryant?
Yeah. That was an interesting game.
We got a face-off guy on the call. What'd you do? What was your move? You going for the plunger like everybody, or are you trying to?
So I don't know how I went 60% against that kid. I have no idea how. It'll never happen again. So honestly, dumb luck. But I tried to swipe it first, and then if I didn't, I basically put my stick in between his gloves, kind of like the middle of the stick, and put it here. So as he spun, I spun with him. And the instant he picked his hand up to try to get the ball out, I basically ripped his stick out. So the ball would basically go 50-50 regardless of the way. He wasn't going to be involved because I was already standing up. And it was basically me, my wing guy, and his wing guy for a ground ball.
Interesting. And you're trusting your wing guys. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I can't win a ground ball to space. I have no idea what I'm
doing. That's cool. So you weren't trying to clamp?
No, I knew I wasn't going to win that battle.
Because you knew you weren't going to win the clamp, so you were trying to counter right off the bat. So you knew you were going to counter. Because Joey, you're a clamp guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Joey's a clamp guy. He's good at it too. I think we can get him. You can really plunge. If you watch TD, the guy played with Will, he can get 30% of that ball. That ball's out of there. I mean, he does not have to get far over the ball to pop that thing out.
He figured out, and I'm not sure how to do it, but he figured out how you take his right hand and basically screw it down like a wrench and just slowly wiggle the ball out of the guy's stick. It's incredible. It's almost like he's going to plunge or just –
Oh, so he can get it out of someone's stick once they beat him on a clamp. He can plunge
it. If it's 30-70, the other guy, TD will find a way to kind of plunger his hand in there and almost get enough of it to get out. It's incredible.
Yeah, he's a freak. So that's your homework assignment, Joey, is to watch TD Erlin highlights. Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's really cool. Gio, anybody?
What's your favorite locker room memory at Yale?
Locker room memory? Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
PG-13.
Great football locker.
Locker room memory? Oh, there's so many good ones. I think our favorite one has to be every year we make a joke with the freshmen that they have to wear their compression shorts in the shower until they talk to compliance. So it was pretty funny.
Really?
So that goes on.
What do they do to not have to wear their compression shorts?
They have to wear their compression shorts until they talk to compliance. which is obviously just absolute bullshit. But
Okay, that's awesome.
still is pretty funny. PG-13 enough.
Yes, absolutely.
I think we should do that, boys.
Yes, we need to make sure we don't lose our
Like it.
locker room. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you. Force that.
Is there any
It's awesome.
freshmen in here? Billy?
No, thank you. Well, next year.
So, it's getting to round 5. I didn't want to, if anybody's got questions, please speak up. I don't want to take too long.
Yeah, I knew you played for AJ. What was to me a story about AJ as well as his best speech you ever had? It can be embarrassing.
I gotta mention the speech. Yeah, the cut off finger speech is still my personal favorite. I'm pretty sure I can't remember if this story exactly true, but I remember we let in a goal once. And I think it was entirely my fault. And AJ is jumping up and down the sidelines, screaming, like royally pissed. I think I did something stupid, but he wasn't yelling at me. He was yelling at the slide guy for not going. And I can't remember who was his assistant coach at the time, but they'd kind of made a rule that you don't slide to the close defenseman at summer tournaments just because why would you do that? And AJ got more mad at the assistant coach than any of us because he thought that was ridiculous, not how you play team defense. He was all about, you can't play team defense even in summer ball, which just never happened.
Yeah, that sounds like me. I think Coach Monroe was good at that too. He would, at Governor's Academy, he's like, if you re-explain my drill, I will yell at you in front of all these boys. Do not re-explain my drill. And he tried to set the coaches to a high standard, and I guess I'm a little nuts on that. But that's awesome. I was going to say, were you there, Will, at the UMass tournament where I wore the Flint Tropics jersey underneath my hoodie?
I don't think I was, sadly. I
Movie
wish I
Semi-Pro?
was.
You know what I'm talking about? Will Ferrell's movie Semi-Pro?
Oh, no, I absolutely. I just I don't think I was there for that. I wish I was. I don't think I was.
That was the theme of the tournament, ELE, everyone love everyone. And it was, we said, let's get tropical for each game. But yeah, you get changed up and have fun. We had a lot of fun, a lot of great memories. But we played hard, but we worked hard too, And I think it's a great, awesome memories. I really like that you started with nutrition because I think guys don't take that seriously. And they wonder how they get bigger, faster, stronger. And if you don't eat right, you're not going to play well. You're going to get cramps. You're not going to get bigger. I mean, you went from 195 to 205 in a relatively short period.
I went from 187 to 205 in about 4 months, or about 200, and then I gained a few pounds over the years, recapping and whatnot. But about 205.
And granted, you were 18. I think some guys in high school need to realize that you still need to eat right, but you'll hit that growth spurt eventually. If you're not eating right, you would have never gained that weight.
No, absolutely. I mean, your college strength and conditioning coach, if you choose to go that route, will absolutely help you. Like, ours is really good. We lifted 4 days a week. Only somewhat psychotic, kind of very psychotic. But I will say, like, in the fall, I've heard guys a little worried about if I'm going to have a college experience and all that. But our coach has always been like, you guys are college boys. Like, I fully understand. I don't expect you to be choir boys. Enjoy your life, but, like, take care of your your locker room, your space. And so we kind of we'll go out 3-4 days a week in the fall, but at the same time, like, we're lifting 4 days a week, we're practicing 2 or 3 times a week, and so as long as you take care of your stuff, like, you can absolutely have a good time in college. So it's not all lacrosse all the time.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, like, job, especially in season, you put in 30-35 hours a week once the season rolls around.
I think you can tell when you guys play Albany. I mean, Albany was so hyped, and they were good. But, like, you look at, like, how you guys shut them down. I mean, you guys think about names like Nanacote and Connor Fields. Those are the guys that Yale shut down. And Grant Amon. It's kind of funny talking to Will. He doesn't really see these guys as big. He's not a big lacrosse fan, so to speak. He's kind of like he just loves playing. He's not like into the personalities. But that Penn State offense was glorified. Everyone loves it, and you guys beat them. Like 21-17.
Yeah, 17 is not great for defense. I prefer this year's score of like 12-10 or whatever that was. Should have held them to single digits, but yeah.
That's a ridiculous offense, though, and you guys, beat by 4. So that was awesome. What was your best college moment playing? Was it the Duke championship?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say winning a national championship is up there. And surprisingly enough, actually, the UMass game that year, which was our first round game, winning that, which was just a giant weight of our backs. We hadn't left the first round in like 30 years, 35 years. It was huge. Because we kind of knew, like, once we got past the first round, we were going to championship weekend. It really wasn't much of a question. And so I don't know if I was excited in that moment, but, like, you kind of just had a feeling like this is what's about to happen.
That's awesome. Yeah, you can just feel it. That's cool. That's awesome. That's what I'm trying to get with these guys, try to get the monkey off their back. I think we're loaded with talent, and they just need to be able to get a system in place where they can just, be athletes and play.
Also to go back to I should have mentioned this when you were talking about nutrition. One of the biggest things that I learned, or biggest adjustments, was actually the mental game of college sports. We've had a sports psychiatrist come talk to us about it. You guys will see us do kind of weird things. Like for a second, we call it resetting. Like each person has their own little thing. Back to neutral, trying to either you had a great play or a bad play, like doing the next little thing. And our coach is a big fan of, hey, I don't care if you score a goal or whatever, but do the next thing fundamentally correctly. Approach the ball fundamentally. Pick up the ground ball fundamentally. Throw the pass hard. All those little simple things build on each other, and then having the kind of the mental resilience to say, okay, this went really poorly. Let's try again. Let's do this a different way. And AJ mentioned that game from my freshman year, the Maryland game. Yale has been built on for a bunch of years, coming back from huge deficits. We were down, I think, 11-5 or 12-6, and we crawled that game to 12-11 before 2 1-hour thunderstorm rain delays. And without those, who knows what happens? But at the same time, to crawl back from 12-6 or 11-5, whatever it was, to the eventual national champions at the time was kind of impressive for us.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. What's your reset method? I mean, that's if a goal. Brady's listening. He's the goalie. That's such a good thing for everybody, but goalies especially need to be able to reset. Did you have a certain ritual that you would try to?
Yeah, so everybody has their own thing. I personally take a deep breath. I put my stick kind of face not lying down, but kind of straight up and down, so the head of my stick is at my feet. I look at the Under Armour logo. I tap the back of my elbow with my shaft. I close my eyes. I breathe. I say reset. I open my eyes, and I move on with my day.
Cool.
After goals, after plays, come to the sideline, catch my breath. I normally do it, whether I had a good play or a bad play.
So that's interesting because I get it for the bad play, but for the good play, you're trying to keep yourself grounded.
Yeah, it's more so the fact that if you've seen this before, you can absolutely stack good plays. Like when we were really good at riding, obviously we used our bench to get a lot of energy and ride teams back, which we were really good at. But at the same time, you'll see us explode off the bench, and then all of a sudden, maybe 10 seconds after, we'll all start shouting reset, almost going like this to ourselves. Because you'll see this with a lot of talented teams is they'll get really hyped when things are going well, but the instant things start going poorly, everything comes down to fundamentals.
The other way.
Goes to shit. And it's really easy to reset when it's bad because you're like, oh, it's bad. I want to get back to neutral. But when it's good, it's almost more important because if you don't and then you get derailed, it's really, really tough to get.
Yeah, the pendulum swings even further. Yeah, that's great. That's interesting. That's awesome. I'm all about that. I wrote down some notes that I'm stealing from you, Will. Face off by committee, reset the edge, reset in general. Well, I'm gonna have to get some sync up with you on my notes on this, but that's some awesome stuff right there, guys. We all need to reset, whether it's good or bad. I think that's such a great way to approach life in general, but definitely the lacrosse field. Any questions, fellas?
Yeah. Hey, Will, how did you prepare physically and mentally for big games coming up?
So for big games, we obviously would scout throughout the week. Me personally, come probably Thursday night, Friday, depending on when I had to scout, by 5 o'clock, I would have ideally watched all the individual cuts of the guys on offense, which would probably be the top 8 guys or so, 3 attackmen, maybe 4, and 4 or 5 middies. And then just knowing their sets, go through that a few times, review the playbook once just to make sure that I, just go through the terms once or twice in my head. And then honestly, come 7 o'clock on Friday night, close everything down. Absolutely forget about it. Remove the game. Kind of don't worry about it. I know what I know. I'm confident what I know, and kind of move on from that perspective. I personally, for game days, enjoyed having a bacon, egg, and cheese of some type. especially eggs and bacon in general, with some carb just to make sure I was good for the game about 4 hours beforehand. And then everybody has their own like little bit of pregame ritual. I like to go out about an hour and a half before game time to do just footwork in terms of opening up my hips. But besides that, it was mostly listening to music, just reviewing things in my head, and then kind of once I stepped on the field for pregame warm-ups, kind of turned off my mind. Just let my body do what it did in terms of all of practice that week and kind of trust my preparation. But obviously Thursday, Friday in particular, watch the film, watch the breakdown, make sure you know the sets, and make sure you know who you're going to play against, because we call it hay in the barn and kind of end the prize on Friday, all the hay's in the barn, so there's no really need to stress out about it. And I view kind of stress as a useless emotion as a poor way to put it, but it doesn't really benefit you. It kind of starts to cause you to tense up, and either you know it or you don't, and trust that you do.
Do you get quiet before games?
What?
Do you get quiet before a game?
I'm much more of a quiet guy than a rah-rah guy in terms of how I start. But on the field, I go back and forth.
I've seen it. I've seen it when you dunked that ball too. It was pretty like, I may be a rah-rah coach, and I try to get you guys fired up, but I know that I agree with that. I get very quiet before games as a player until I need to say something. But I also, some of my best timeouts I've ever called, I don't say anything. I just kind of like call timeout and I wait a long pause, because I think sometimes quiet helps.
Well, to that point, AJ, which is kind of funny, is after every timeout, when we kind of bring it in before we go back to the field, our coach always says deep breath. And he makes the whole team take a deep breath just to kind of as a general reset, just to make sure, A, catch the breath for a second, and B, just to give you a sense of everything's fine. Have fun. It's a game. And then we'll break it down on whatever it is. But it kind of just allows you to get a chance.
That's awesome. I'm totally stealing that too. That's a great suggestion. Deep breath after every timeout huddle.
Yeah. Well, he'll talk. He'll bring us up. He'll go, all right, guys, deep breath, and then he'll break us down.
That's awesome. Do you guys break up into different groups on a timeout?
So we it depends on what we want, depending on how the offensive coaches want to talk. So we'll do one huddle or two huddles, but we always come back together right before the end of the timeout just to breathe and break it down.
Okay. Cool. Questions? Brady, got any questions?
Happy to answer anything. Anything. I really don't care. You can ask my favorite color.
Anything, yeah. What were your grades like?
My grades were all right.
Mr. Humble here. What were your grades like?
Well, all right in college. I definitely did not put as much work as I should have into it coming from the high school that I did. I do regret that. I'm an econ major. I was around a 3/4 for that range. Not dumb by any means, but not as high as I would have liked. Just because I put a lot more time into building bonds and building my lacrosse acumen over school sometimes, which looking back, wish I put a little more time into my studies. And obviously it didn't do poorly by any means, but definitely could have.
But in high school, you didn't get any C's.
No C's.
That's what I wanted you to say. What did you get, A's and B's?
Yeah, never C's.
So, okay. So guys, I just wanted them to hear that because you're very humble on that. And maybe you could have got all A's, but you definitely didn't get any C's. Will does work his butt off in the classroom. That's why he ended up at Yale. And what was your GPA?
At Yale or in high school?
At Yale.
3.4-ish, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, and that's him slacking off, getting a 3.4. I'm just saying, guys, this classroom is where it starts. Can you see that I'm sharing the screen right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Can everybody see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Will, what is this?
This would be Penn versus Yale in the quarterfinals.
That's right. This game, these guys had 3 games decided by 1 point this season. Crazy. That's how close Penn was, but they weren't, So here's Will on a guy, has a shot. Oh, what's this? Let's pause. That's right. Let's get a little sound on this bad boy.
You can't handle it. still has it. Going all the way.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Will Weitzel Jr.
Oh, my goodness.
Season.
Ridiculous.
7-5, and those are the goals start that hurt with only 3 seconds
See
left.
the instant replay.
Juice goal. You find some grinders, guys. You don't
A
typically
grinder.
hit the back of the net. It's a different level of excitement for your team. It's a payoff for the hard work. For the
Oh, that might have been 5-hole. It was close.
I think it was off his left hip.
Left foot?
Left hip, right off the left hip.
Anisha said, hold it till 20.
You know, close up on Weitzel. There he is.
They gave Yale too much time to operate.
Now, that's a question I wanted to ask you, and I don't want to, you know, they said he's talking about giving him too much time to operate, but how did the shot clock come into play? Like, I mean, obviously, no, it came into play. We can talk about that. Do you love it?
On the shot clock, I think it adds enough pace to college lacrosse that it actually makes it more fun, is a weird way to put it, but it gives you more pace to the game. So there's no, like, you can't really play a super methodical offense. The only issue that I don't like it is when they hit a pipe with 5 seconds left and they reset and you're about to play defense for another 3 minutes, or 2 minutes. It's you got to really, really dig deep for those kind of possessions because you know they're flying around for the first 80 seconds and then you're about to fly around for another 80. And they're probably subbing all their middies to get a fresh group out there.
Interesting. So, I mean, but before the days of the shot clock, they could just keep going and keep going. But you're saying, you know, you almost had this sense of like relief, and then they hit a pipe, and then all of a sudden you're like devastated that you have another 80 seconds. Or
yeah, it's not quite to that point because that's not a great mentality, and we really worked on removing that from how we play defense. Because we call it process-based thinking versus outcome-based thinking. In terms of the fact that, like, if they hit a pipe, we have to play another 80 seconds of defense. Like that would, and a lot of people's minds would be disappointing. We wouldn't have achieved our goal of getting a stop per se. But if we do everything right, building up to that, we live with that. So the process versus the outcome for us is a really big deal. And that's part of the reason I think that we've been steadily able to improve the past few years is because we might not have had the ending we wanted, but we've always done things the right way, thanks to Shay, which is our head coach, which has always been his emphasis. So
it sounds like you guys put a lot of emphasis on your mental state, your thought process, and your point of view, and you're really cerebral about grounding yourself and also mentally preparing just as much as the physical side. It sounds like to me. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. I mean, I mentioned it in terms of the mental game, but it's crazy how much of a step up you kind of have to be because, I remember looking at Yale's roster before I came and kind of like looking through their bios. Every single kid was All-American, top 3 in their league, leading scorer, leading defense, like whatever it was, they were leading everything. I remember the sophomore I came in like, I am not this person. I don't know who they think they're recruiting, but this is not me at the moment. And it ended up being me, thankfully. But when I first saw it, I was like, this is don't know how I'm going to compete with these guys. And you realize that even the kid who's sitting at the end of the bench who doesn't play a minute was probably better than, the vast majority of kids that are starting for some schools. And honestly, they were incredible in high school. They were that guy in high school. So they've had that experience. And part of the reason some people just don't play is because they don't have it mentally, which is too bad when you have all the physical gifts. But sometimes if you don't have that mental part of it, it just doesn't work. It doesn't click. And the mental part really builds your consistency. Because you'll have guys make crazy splash plays and you'll have all the talent in the world. But if you can't consistently do it, you're not going to be able to play, which is too bad to say, but it's kind of the case because all the talent in the world is not going to let you do it every single time.
That's great. That's crazy to think about because, you think about injuries taking out a lot of guys, and it does. But I think the mental injury, the head injury of the mental side of it, probably takes out more players than you would ever know about because just guys that just can't, like you said, they can't hack it or they can't. They just it's a little bit of mental torture too. You can be a small fish in a big pond after being just killing it in high school or whatever it might be, not being able to adjust.
it's weird to say, but coming out of high school, like you're traditionally coming to a school like Yale, like one of those big time schools, like you're kind of all that in terms of your accolades, and your confidence to some extent is based off of that. And so as you get to college, you have to kind of keep that confidence, but also have a very real reality check of where you stand in the world. And it's really hard to kind of look at yourself in the mirror and say, this is how I view myself. This is not where I currently stand. I can get here, but this is not where I currently stand. And you got to have that quiet self-confidence, but at the same time kind of realize where you are in everything and slowly start to build yourself up.
It's awesome. It's great, man. Anybody else?
Yeah, well, what's the deal with I know Ivy League schools aren't getting a fifth year.
Yeah.
You're looking to transfer to play, going to go pro, just going to work, going to coach? Like, what's the deal?
So I want to go to law school and be a lawyer in the near future. I had some fortunate events this fall that made me just not do as well as I would have liked on my LSATs. So I think I'm going to work for a year, ideally as a paralegal, apply to law school, and go the following year. I'm slightly entertaining the idea of going to law school and playing for a fifth year, but only at a place that would kind of elevate my academic standings. Like there's a few places that I've reached out to that I can get into now and I just don't want to go to. So I'll see where it pans out, but I'm likely to take a year to work before I go to law school.
Cool. I'll tell Tierney that you want to go to Denver Law. It's a good move.
Yeah, Ohio State reached out, and I was like, no.
Well, that's awesome. Well, we wish you the best with whatever your next chapter is. Hopefully, you don't shut the door on the PLL or the MLL when they call your name, and you can still play in the professional lacrosse as a lawyer. I'm just saying, you're young.
So I could play for a year. I don't know if I will, but I'll entertain the idea. And I forgot to mention that, guys, when we first started, I do feel really bad for you guys in your season. I know that obviously I'm going through the same thing. It's my senior year, but I have younger brothers who are in high school who have lost their season too. So I feel for you guys. I'm really sorry this had to happen. But come back stronger. You have an off season to do things that you never had the opportunity to do before from a learning perspective. Take advantage of it. Hit the weight room, hit the whole body, body weight, whatever you got. You got time that honestly, it sucks that you have it, but it's also an absolute gift and an opportunity.
Absolutely. We appreciate that. That's awesome. Unless anybody has anything else, I think anybody? We good?
Yes,
awesome.
sir.
I'm set.
That was awesome, Will. That was awesome. Just, giving us your time. We appreciate it. We thank you so much. And
thanks.
Happy to help you guys.
Appreciate it.
If you guys want advice or questions, whatever, AJ knows how to reach me. I'm happy to talk to you guys. And good luck with whatever you guys have planned for the future.
all right. Thanks, Will. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you.
All right, fellas.
Thanks,
Thanks
Will.
for joining us, guys. Hope you enjoyed.
No problem.